Hey, what's up, guys? Morey Croson here with the Performance Lab of California. We're going to do another speed breakdown here today on Maurice Greene when he ran a 6:39 world record beating 60-meter dash. There's one thing from the beginning, I guess, initial takeoff that I wanted to really quickly go over. And Maurice Greene is here in lane 4. And what we're going to go over is how really the guy in the next lane to him, lane 3, actually had a better takeoff than him. And the one kind of myth, and we kind of talked about this before, that you can see that the guy in lane 3 does is he takes a very short first step. So you can see that first step just gets kind of right out in front there. And he as he's transferring through, he really keeps his feet. Notice the guy in lane 3 here. I know we're doing a breakdown on Maurice Greene, but the guy in lane 3, he has a little better takeoff, so we're going to take the information that we get from there. You can see how his feet stay very, very close to the track throughout. He has a good amount of side-to-side movement in his each one of his steps. You can see how he's getting pretty close to the line there on the right, and he's coming back all the way over to the left. So he has a good amount of side-to-side movement, which you obviously want to try to eliminate as much as you can, but it's also part of what generates momentum, especially at the beginning, and getting him going. You can see that he starts out at least ahead, and then Maurice Greene starts to come through and takes or ties it up about right there, and then takes the lead from there in lane 4. So we'll look more into Maurice Greene here first. So he has a little bit more of he's trying to really reach in each one of his steps. So his first step, he's really trying to get those knees all the way up, trying to get it out as far as he can. Same thing with that left step, and this is really one of the things that Maurice has ended up developing in his running form, is the ability to really get a lot of hip flexion. So he's a big time, I'm going to try to get my knees all the way up. And you can see how he transitions through and then extends that left leg here. I'm sorry, the quality isn't great. I think this was in it's in the 90s, so it's a little bit older film. But he's one of the best sprinters ever for the United States. So I wanted to show this footage. So you can see though. I mean, he has really, really big legs, so he's really strong down low, and you can see how he's transitioning through. And this is one of the things that it seems like it's a very, very hard concept for sprinters to be able to achieve, or for athletes to be able to achieve, is driving that leg through, and once it gets into maximum flexion, being able to get this extension of the knee and then drive back around and really initiate that cycle. So see how he gets that knee up, and then he straightens that knee and then drives down and gets those hips, or gets his foot right underneath him, and makes it so his foot ends up landing his foot ends up landing right even with his knee. And then if you draw a line all the way up through the ear, that all that lines up. The hips might be a little bit back behind, but overall it all lines up pretty well. And you can see the same thing here. He's getting that knee up. As he gets into that knee up, he gets in that really good extension there, and then he drives back through and underneath, which is exactly what you want to do. And another thing that it seems like he does an excellent job of is he can get plenty of arm range of motion. So his arms, I mean, look at how far back, in the footage you can't really see the left arm great, but you can see definitely the right arm and how far back he's able to get it. This is another thing that I think a lot of athletes struggle with, is really being able to get that elbow all the way back there. See how he gets, and notice where he gets the force. So a lot of times I see this initial, and again, I'm looking right here at this left arm. Again, I know it's hard to see. I know it's not an excellent quality video, but I want you to be able to see what it is that I want, what is that is important to see here. So see how when he gets that arm up, notice what he does when he comes back down, and how this initial action is just kind of a movement down with that left arm, or sorry, with that right arm, and then here it becomes really the drive phase, right? So it's when you get that hand down and then push down from here, that's where you get that arm back behind. A lot of times what ends up happening is that sprinters, they end up, or athletes, they end up, trying to get too much initial. So right here, just when they first start pushing down with that arm, they try to get too much force there, and then they stop the ability to get their arm all the way back. So then they end up stopping about, maybe right here, so that angle doesn't get all the way back. In comparison to if you start the real hard push down closer to when your wrist is closer to your hip, now you could really get that arm back. And when you could get that arm back, then when you drive with that opposite leg, so notice when he's driving with that right leg, or sorry, with his left leg and right arm, how much force is getting into both, right? So it's big time right arm coming all the way through hard, and he's using the force from his core and through his pec to really drive that left knee up. And because of how fast he can get that left knee up, now he can get into that extension. The reason that people have a hard time getting that extension in that front knee is because their foot is just so, or that leg is so far back behind them, and they can't get that knee up fast enough to make it so then they can get into extension of the knee. Okay, so those are two very, very critical points for all the athletes out here that are trying to get faster and trying to improve their top end speed. One, we need to make sure that as you're pushing down and trying to get into that extension of the shoulder, you do that closer to when the hip is, or when the wrist is closer to the hip. Okay, not when it's at the very top like here, it's when it's down here and then hard movement backwards. Okay, really work on that. Really try to get that elbow the same height as the shoulder. That's going to be very, very important. The second concept to understand here that's very, very important is we need to be able to drive that and get that the speed in your knee to be able to drive that leg up and then extend the knee and then come back around. Okay, we're going to show you what it looks like again here. It's drive that knee up hard, use that arm. He's using that left arm to really get that right knee all the way up. And then when you're in this position, extend that leg, that foot out in front of you. You don't extend, notice how he extends it out, right? He's not extending it right down towards the track, okay? He extends it out in front of him and then cycles back through, and notice how it lands right back under him, and then how fast he gets right back off the ground, and then how fast he gets that heel right back up to his butt, and then it's how fast he drives that knee back up. Now this is one of the best, 60-meter sprinters of all time, so you don't need to be able to be this powerful to succeed in your sport. Now, if you want to be the best 60-meter sprinter of all time, your mechanics are going to have to look very, very similar to this, because this is the most effective leg cycle in order to sprint. But if you're just trying to, get closer to a 4.5, 4.6, or 4.4, whatever, it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but it has to be a lot closer than where you're probably at now. So study this, look at this, try to understand it, make it so you can get a better feel for what the right mechanics are when you're sprinting. And there's a bunch of things you got. I mean, the guy has unbelievably strong hip flexors, and the reason he does is because of how strong his quads are. You can see his legs, how strong his legs are, and that builds off itself. So it's agonist and antagonist. Your agonist would be those hip flexors and quads; they work synergistically, and then the antagonists are the hamstrings. So his quads couldn't be as big as they are unless his hamstrings were also very, very strong. There's a yin and yang. There's a push and pull in any type of movement, and so in order for him to achieve this, he has both the hamstring strength and the quad strength and the core strength and the low back strength. And so you need to be able to, in terms of training, what you want to be thinking about training wise is if you're strengthening a lot of your hamstrings, make sure that you're strengthening the hip flexors. There's a ton of people, hip flexors don't come from just doing squats. You have to be able to lift that knee up and practice on lifting the knee up and get exercises where you're working on that knee drive, working on it fast, working on it with some resistance. I mean, that's the way that you build your hip flexors. I have so many guys I'm working on. Just get your hip flexors stronger. I mean, I know that's an issue for a lot of people that are watching the videos. Your hip flexors need to be stronger, and your core needs to be stronger, and your lower back needs to be stronger. And all these things are things that seem to be oftentimes overlooked in sprinters, and that's why I'm passionate about it. That's why I'm trying to help you guys out, is because I just see it so often. So as always, thanks for watching these videos, guys. If you want to learn more, send in a breakdown of yourself sprinting. I'll be able to look at it. I'll be able to tell you some exercises that you could do to be able to fix it. I'm working on a book right now to make it so you guys will be able to get some written content of how the sprint should look, and when I get that, I'll be sure to make it so all these videos have access to that. And then we're also sign up for our online membership. I mean, we have a ton of videos, exercises, just a whole area where you can go and learn more about the sprint and how you can be a more effective sprinter, and I think that'll be extremely, extremely valuable for you. So yeah, thanks for watching the videos, guys, and I will see you soon.